toujours bien.
We are in Western Sumatra, in Sumatra Barat, very close to Bukit Tinggi in the mountains, but here it's very low, it's about 300 or 400 meters above sea level, and I wanted absolutely to come to see one exceptional plant. This plant is Pentastemona Egregia. According to authors, it's its own family, Pentastemonaceae or Stemonaceae. This plant is this one. But what is exceptional? It is beautiful, it's important, it's a very beautiful species. But what is exceptional? It is the only monocotyledon in the world with a symmetry 5 instead of symmetry 3. So it means it has 5 stamens, hence the name Pentastemona, 5 stamens, and also the corolla has 5 lobes. And this individual, incredibly beautiful. First of all, we see the stem creeping along the rock. We see the beautiful leaves with venation, typical monocot venation, but some dicots also have this. Also on the reverse, we could see that the small nerves are perpendicular. This is characteristic of other species of Stemonaceae, but this venation is very, very particular. And here, we see the flowers, and I put my glasses and we see clearly that these flowers are symmetry 5. They look like, it's very funny because they look like a family Campanulaceae, and especially they look like to another genus from Southeast Asia, Pentaphragma. So here is Pentastemona and also Pentaphragma. So you see, you can see perfectly this campanulate flower, yellowish green, which is the only few flowers on this stem. We see the bracts with hairs just around, and we see the roots, also roots appearing all along the stem. So it's really an exceptional plant. It's really a dream for a botanist, because really it occurs, of course it's endemic from Sumatra, and it seems to be up to now endemic of this Anai Canyon area, because we are at the Anai waterfall in the Anai Canyon, and we see that this exceptional plant is perfectly growing in very humid, wet areas. It's raining a lot, of course, and we see they are growing on very humid rocks. So we can see this plant. Here I see a broken leaf. Maybe it will be able, there is a callus, so maybe it will be able to give another young plant. We should see later here also a broken leaf. So we see very juicy, so exceptional plant, quite thick leaves. So happy I came again after 33 years in Sumatra, especially to see this wonderful baby. Here I see a huge population of Pentastemona Egregia, and what I see is what I did suspect, leaf cuttings. The leaves break very easily, and actually when the leaves reach the so humid soil everywhere, we see that they give new roots and, most important, new shoots. So I don't know how is working the sexual reproduction, but vegetative reproduction is very efficient, and it's why we have so many individuals side by side. So probably Sexual reproduction is only through small seeds on the vertical support like this, and horizontally or more or less horizontally along the ground, all the cut leaves, because they break very easily, can give new plants. I see again, we see every leaf we can see broken gives a new plant. So it's very efficient. Why this plant is not common everywhere in Sumatra? This is a mystery, because it's very efficient for vegetative propagation, but actually the same family species. It doesn't invade all the habitats. This is a mystery of the life, and we love to see this so efficient way of propagating in this so humid forest of the Anai Canyon. This population of so many tens, dozens of individuals actually is propagating through vegetative leaf cuttings, because the leaves are so juicy, they break very easily, and as soon as they reach the soil in this so humid habitat, they give roots, first a callus, and then the roots, and then some new shoots arising from the dead leaf, which is actually not dead. So finally, each leaf is like a big seed, because it has reserves of sugar, of water, so it can give rise to a big pseudo seedlings. It looks really like seedling, but actually it is a vegetative seedling, very, very efficient for this species. Here we see that these pentaphragma are germinating only on very, very steep slopes, covered by mosses. Of course, algae on mosses on this slope are very, very wet, and the seeds are very small, so of course they cannot germinate on the horizontal ground. So it's typical of all these plants growing on bare rocks. Why? Simply because they cannot have tiny seedlings embedded inside the dead leaves on the forest floor. So they are strictly inferior to vertical rocks for sexual reproduction. But we have seen that these pentaphragma are perfectly adapted to horizontal soil, because they can propagate through vegetative leaf cuttings, as we have seen many. So we have the double way for the reproduction of these fantastic pentaphragma. We have the sexual way on the steep slopes, vertical, really humid slopes, and the propagation through vegetative way through leaf cuttings on the horizontal or oblique soil among the dead leaves. So this plant is very, very efficient to colonize this habitat, this shady and very, very humid habitat. One of the most beautiful plants here in the Anai Canyon. We see the Pentastemona habitat on vertical slopes, especially for the plants coming through seedlings. And also there are plants on the horizontal ground coming up from vegetative propagation. Habitat of Pentastemona Egregia in Anai Canyon near Bokitingi, and we see here beautiful individual with bright green leaves and inflorescences coming out of the axils of the leaves. We clearly see these plants on vertical slopes, and we see that the very small seeds can germinate only among mosses on these totally vertical banks. And this Pentastemona Egregia has vegetative propagation through leaf cuttings, but it's interesting that the other species in the northern part of Sumatra Pentastemona sumatrana has also a vegetative propagation, but not especially through leaf cuttings, maybe also, but especially through the end of the inflorescence stalk, which finishes in a vegetative bud. So here, for instance, in Pentastemona Egregia, we have just the flowers and inflorescence, but in Pentastemona sumatrana, there are also a vegetative proliferation at the top. Here we clearly see a female flower with the huge ovary just below the tepals of the flower on this inflorescence. So this is a typical female flower with a big ovary. Here is the ovary with all these ridges which are a little bit fronted, so typical ovary. Here actually is a male flower because the base is not swollen like in the female flower, so there is not an ovary at the base. We have just a narrow peduncle for the flower without the swollen part of the ovary. So on the same plant you can have both male and female flowers. So it's a typical case of monoecious, monoecious plants, and not at all dioecious plants, because we have on the same plant both male and female flowers. Moreover, we see that actually this male flower usually has bigger lobes of the corolla. Here we see the leaf cuttings of Pentastemona Egregia in situ. We see the old leaves not decaying but falling on the soil and giving new plantlets on usually where it is broken, usually at the transition between the pétiole and the leaf blade. Pagi.
Apa dah bang ko?
Kuihnya mereka aku ni ah.
Bang mentang-mentang kok.
Ya, aku mau bawa ke Padang ya. Aku bawa anak lo di Padang ah.
Oh sudah.
Ya, nak lo sekarang ko. Padang ko ada mau bawa, jadi ku barunya. Ya. Masih lama lah.
Why are you interested by this?
I'm interested by this. These are small bivalve, like freshwater mussels. I love them since I'm a very young guy with my aquariums. Because in France also we can find some of them, but very big ones. And this one is very small, and I came to Manjao 33 years ago.
Plastik sila ba masuk dulu nak? Beko bagus di baru dicari apa ya?
Yeah. Danao Maninjao, with the paddy fields, with the agroforestry system, one among the most elaborated in the world, and my friend Geneviève Michon, she did study them, and I came with her 33 years ago in 1983, and we did go together in these agroforestry systems, and we had some adventure like a flash flood in a river. So, but we did not die. But it was a good souvenir, and we see now at that time, of course, there were not at all tilapia farming, because tilapia farming did begin only in 1992, so about 10 years later. And but paddy fields here, and But even in the agroforestry system, which look like natural forest, we can find many very interesting plants among understory plants and among epiphytic species. So it's a very good sustainable system. And now we see that there are more and more new Minangkabau style houses. So it's good because 30 years ago there were not so many new Minangkabau style buildings, and now most of the new ones are really traditional, and this is very good to see very traditional houses among the lorries and cars and buses and motorbikes and all the mix of the life of the 21st century. So we are in the Harau Valley, close to Bukit Tinggi, about 50 kilometers from Bukit Tinggi, a very protected valley with very steep rocks. It seems mostly sandstone rocks, and since now is a rainy season, these rocks are totally seeping rocks, and we see a very beautiful population of Gesneriaceae, probably Dedescendra affinity, very beautiful crinkled leaves. Another Gesneriaceae with these crinkled brownish leaves. This one has pink flowers, this one has bright white flowers. And here we see still something else, another species with different types of leaves but no flowers. Now we see also, for instance, the smallest ginger of the world. It's a Camptandra parvula. Parvula means a small plant, and we see it loves seeping rocks. We see seedlings of everybody, all the Gesneriates, among Selaginella, among mosses and the vertical rocks. Of course, all these plants have tiny seeds and tiny seedlings. It's why they love to germinate, and they can only germinate on vertical rocks. We see all the seedlings, all the stages of development of the population. But Camptandra is very special for this ginger. We see a bract and closing the flower. This is a already decaying flower, because flower lasts for only few hours every morning. Yes, it's another family, Acanthaceae, little bit swollen at the node. Yes, we have seen this one. Yeah, here is this. Same as the big one, but here smaller. Okay. On this very, very seeping rock, always wet, we are in a very narrow canyon, arriving to the waterfall in the Harao Canyon, Global Valley. And here it's very, very rich in the Gesneriaceae of the Codonobea alliance, either genus Codonobea or very closely related genera. And here we see one which is incredibly beautiful with very long wavy leaves, but just under it we can see another one which has bigger leaves, also a little bit wavy. We see, if we check another one, totally velvety, we see the velvety leaves. And I did see at least 5 species in this area, but here we see that only on 1 square meter we have 3 different species. So it's very, very rich here. And also we see here, and also a 4th one, because this one is another one which has tiny pink flowers. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4. All this is half a square meter. Here is a Nekia, a small plant of the Ochnaceae family, growing always on vertical rocks like this. And oh yes, and here finally we find the flowers of the smallest ginger, existing ginger of the world, the Camptandra parvula. So very beautiful, two-lipped, white, bright white flower, tiny plant growing always on very humid rocks like this. So it's very rich because of course there are also different Selaginella species, many different fern species, some Melastomataceae, especially this one, I don't know what it is, which flowers at the top in the middle, a condensed flower inflorescence in the middle of the top. I have no idea about the genus. Many ginger on the soil, of course. So we see the big plants on the soil, and we see much smaller plants in the very shaded areas, because here is totally shaded, but plants are living even in this dark habitats. And oh, Xeris here. I did see with the yellow inflorescence. It's why I know it's Xeris, because I did see in another place the inflorescence. So we see another tiny fern covering everything. And so it's very rich. And of course, if we spend more time, we find many more different species.
Yeah.
Black Selaginella.
When you break a leaf, you see what happens? Here we see a big patch of the Melastomataceae Phylagatis rotundifolia. I know also this species in the peninsular Malaysia. I'm surprised to find it again in Sumatra. But what is very interesting, we see that an animal or human being, I don't know, did move here, did break all the leaves, not all the leaves, because many plants are still intact, but we see that each leaf broken immediately has roots arising. We see each leaf, not a single one exception, all have new roots arising everywhere. And after all, absolutely all, it's incredible. And after we see, for instance, after there is a new shoot and a new baby plant. So it's really fantastic to see that traumatisms for this plant species are totally used for propagation of the plant. The leaf broken, instead of dying, gives rise to a new plant. So it's really, we can understand why in some cases traumatisms can be benefit to the plant, because it can ensure vegetative propagation. But here is absolutely a perfect example of this situation. Regarde, quelle beauté. Il faut bien prendre en photo avec. Hein.
C'est une merveille ça.
Je vais m'asseoir en dessous. Oula. Yes, no, it's Rhaphidophora, it's a philodendron family. It's a climbing plant, and after you see the same look growing along the trunk here. So you see it's different from orchid because it's climbing like this.
Yeah.
Ça c'est hier. Belle décoration, hein. We are finished the dinner, but it's a pity because we can't see.
The Padang style dinner, absolutely perfect. All the sauces are different. Non, il y a encore un poulet.
Yeah.
So we are now in a quite incredible place and quite incredible situation because we are in a garden very close to a house of Johnny house, and we see of course many Amorphophallus. There are 3 species, Amorphophallus praini, which is quite common, the huge Amorphophallus titanum, and maybe also Amorphophallus gigas, you told me. So Mr. Johnny is very special. Why? Because he did plant this tetrastigma of the grape family, the vine of the grape family. He did plant it 12 years ago. You told me 12 years ago in his garden close to the pond. So we see we are not in forest. We are really in a garden, and we see tetrastigma with climbing everywhere with the big leaves. Probably it's a Tetrastigma lanceolarium, I think, but this we should check. So, and what is very important is that after some years, every time in the forest, because he knows very well the forest around here, because we are about 15 kilometers north of Bukittinggi, and so he knows very well all the places. You told me about 4 places,
Yeah, five locations.
5 locations in the protected forest where there are Rafflesia growing and blooming. So he knows very well the place. He's all the year round here. And he did collect many times the seeds of the Rafflesia. And every time he did put the seeds on the stem of the tetrastigma, because everybody knows that the Rafflesia are parasitic flowers only on tetrastigma vine. And probably you are the first in the world to have success in growing Rafflesia on a tetrastigma. Many botanical gardens did try already all over the world, and the success, we can see the success because we see here the old flower, so it's a female because usually Rafflesia are dioecious because you have usually either male or female. So you have a female plant here. You don't know, you did sow the seed so many times, so you don't know which one were successful, which year.
Yeah.
But maybe you did try since 5-7 years, you remember?
Yeah, maybe I do about about 5 or 6 years ago. But I'm not sure because if I find the seed, I put in a
Every time. So you don't know which year.
I'm not sure how many.
But what is sure is that finally, after quite a few years, maybe 5-7 years, it can have flowers on the tetrastigma. And we see the fruit developing here from a female flower. And here we see the bud of the Rafflesia Arnoldi, the biggest Rafflesia of the world. Since you think about 3-4 months now?
Yeah, about 3 months more.
3 months more before seeing the opening flower of the biggest flower of the world, because Rafflesia Arnoldi from West Sumatra is the biggest Rafflesia. So you are really an exceptional man in the world, and because many the fruit is absolutely perfect. Many people did try this, so I think everybody in the world has to know this, that you are a very powerful, not powerful, but you are really successful because you did try many times, and mostly because you know very well your forest and the life of the tetrastigma. So bravo.
Thank you very much. I have a new tetrastigma. Maybe this new tetrastigma. This.
I knew. Small, very small.
Okay. Cutting on the same tetrastigma.
Yeah.
It's a cutting of this.
Yeah, I take from this.
Okay. So we have to take photo of you and me.
Okay.
Because you are, and I need your name. There will be